Hello, team players. Howl the Wild has a wild amount of options. You would think that 6 new ancestries, which I'm going to cover at the end of the month because I have a big plan for them, 8 new archetypes, and new items would be enough. But no, the Untamed Order Druid just got 10 brand new feats. Not only that, but some of them are also available to Animal Instinct Barbarians. And not only that, but we also have a few new animal forms, as well as new animals for the Animal Instinct Barbarian. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's just dive right in. The first new feat we got in this book is Brutal Crush. This one is available to both Untamed Order Druids and Animal Instinct Barbarians. For one action, if your last strike dealt bludgeoning damage with an unarmed attack that you gained from a polymorph or a morph effect, then you can make another unarmed attack against the same creature. If that attack hits and dealt bludgeoning damage, the target of your attack becomes Stupefied 2 for 1 round. Stupefied 3 on a critical hit. Too bad this one isn't available to Superstition Instinct Barbarians, as it seems very on flavor for them. This is insane to use against spellcasters, as all you really have to do to get the Stupefied condition is hit. Granted, you do have to take a multiple attack penalty on this second strike, but Stupefied is one of the worst conditions a spellcaster can be under. It also helps lower enemies' will saves, which can be very effective in combination with any spellcaster that wants to cast mental spells. This also makes it easier for everyone to frighten them. And Frighten is another pretty good debuff. But honestly, I don't think a lot of people are going to take this because it requires you to do bludgeoning damage, which isn't a very popular damage type. But hopefully this feat will make people want to use bludgeoning damage more. Next we've got Creature Comforts. As a reaction, if you're under the effects of a morph or polymorph effect, and you gain the Frightened condition, you can reduce that Frightened condition by 1. Frightened is so common of a debuff that this is just amazing. If you become Frightened 1, which is the most common number attached to Frightened, you're just not frightened. This does take your reaction, but to be honest, Druids and Barbarians don't really use their reaction all that much, making this feat even better. And then we've got Rip and Tear, which is very similar to Brutal Crush, except it requires an unarmed attack that deals piercing or slashing damage. And if that second strike hits and deals piercing or slashing damage, the target takes an additional 1d6 persistent bleed, or if you're 12th level, 2d6 persistent bleed. This would be good with, I believe there's an archetype that goes off of persistent bleed damage, but this by itself is just not that great, to be honest. Yes, it's extra damage, and it's good extra damage, but you're not really making it harder on enemies. You're not slowing them down, you're not debuffing them, you're not doing anything except extra damage. I don't really like this feat. For level 6, we've got 2 more reaction feats for the Druid. Starting with Misty Transformation. As a reaction, when you transform, you can also create a cloud. This is a 5-foot burst centered on one corner of your space, unless the polymorph effect made you large or larger, in which case, then it covers your entire space instead. And of course, it works normally for clouds. So if you're inside it, then everything outside of it is concealed to you, and if you're outside it, everything in it is concealed to you. This goes until the beginning of your next turn, but is immediately dispersed by a strong wind. I don't know if you guys remember my Giant Guardian build for the Barbarian, but you can do something similar with Wild Shapes from the Druid, and this would be a good combo with that. If you haven't seen it yet, you can check it out right here in the card. But other than that combo, it's really not great, as most Wild Shapes are large or larger, so most likely this is only going to affect you, which is decent but not great. Toppling Transformation, on the other hand, is actually kind of insane. As a reaction, when your size increases due to a polymorph effect, you can immediately attempt to shove or trip an adjacent creature. For determining what size of creatures you can affect with this shove or trip, you use your final size after the polymorph effect. This is a reaction you would only be able to use on your turn, and I believe it would increase your multiple attack penalty. However, this is still fantastic action economy, as you're transforming, tripping, or shoving, and getting to do something else. This is essentially 4 actions in one turn, which is nuts. A fantastic feat here that I do recommend for Untamed Order Druids. But remember, this doesn't just work with wild shape spells. Enlarge is a polymorph effect, which means if you use it on yourself, you can do this. Fantastic feat here. Next level we have new feats for is level 12, starting with Defensive Dismissal. It's another reaction and is triggered when an enemy critically hits you while you're under a polymorph effect that you can dismiss. You dismiss the polymorph effect you're under, but the critical hit becomes a normal hit. But if you no longer fit into your space as a result of turning into your normal form, this effect does not work. Again, this is a defensive option for you. And defensive options can be good for keeping you up. But remember, you're dismissing the polymorph effect, which means any temporary hit points you gained from that effect are lost. Not a huge fan of this feat, but I do think it can be good. Next, we've got a new spell-shaped feat called Explosive Metamorphosis. For one action, if your next action is to cast a polymorph spell, you can choose acid, cold, electricity, or fire damage. When you transform, you create a 5-foot emanation of that type of damage around you. Each creature in that area makes a basic reflex save against this damage. If the polymorph spell had a trait that corresponds to an element, you must select that element if possible. For example, if you use elemental form to turn into a fire elemental, you gotta choose fire. But overall, this is really good if you know that an enemy near you has weakness to a particular type of energy damage. This feat right here is one of the many reasons why recall knowledge is so important. Cleansing transformation requires healing transformation. When you use healing transformation, you can also attempt to counteract one disease or poison affecting the target. If you don't successfully counteract it, you can't use this feat on that specific affliction for 24 hours. Honestly, this makes healing transformation a little more worth it, simply because not only are you healing yourself, but you're getting rid of diseases and poisons, which can be very debilitating depending on what conditions they give you. Plus, this is any polymorph effect on any target, which means it works on spells like Enlarge even if you use it on a different creature. Honestly, I was never really a huge fan of healing transformation, but this might actually make me take it. Next, we've got another feat that's available to both Druids and Barbarians, Towering Transformation. As a reaction, if your size increases due to a polymorph effect, each enemy that is within 30 feet of you and smaller than your new size must make a will saving throw against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. If the target succeeds on their saving throw, nothing happens. If they fail, they become frightened 1. If they critically fail, they become frightened 2, and you can push them 10 feet away from you, which is forced movement, sadly. This is obviously built for Animal Instinct Barbarians and Untamed Order Druids. However, this feat does work with the Giant Instinct Barbarian, as Giant Stature and Titan Stature are polymorph effects, making this great for them as well. I've said this many times on this channel, but Frightened is such a good debuff. And this does have the Rage trait, so you can use it while raging. I do like this feat a lot. Okay, the last feat for Untamed Druids in this book is Too Much to Swallow. As a reaction, if you are subject to an effect that would allow you to escape, you can immediately cast Untamed Form. If you took on a form that's too large for the effect, then you automatically escape. Otherwise, you can attempt to escape as part of this reaction. If this ends an effect that would have put you in the creature's space, such as Swallow Whole, you exit in a square where your new form could fit. This is basically, oh, you want to eat me? Well, guess what? I'm huge now, so good luck. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of creatures have effects like this. But this does work if
an enemy tries to grapple you, and not just with Swallow Whole. And this does allow you to cast Untamed Form on the opponent's turn, but only if they attempt to grapple you or swallow you whole or a similar effect, which makes this pretty situational in my book. Don't get me wrong, it's a very fun feat, and a good one too, when you can pull it off. But I just don't think you're going to use it very much, to be honest. And that's all the Druid feats that we got in Howl the Wild. However, we did get a little more from this book, including new animals that you can transform into with animal form, and new animals for the Animal Instinct Barbarian. For the new animals for animal form, most of them are aquatic creatures. So they're pretty standard, except for the fact that the crab can breathe both water and air, and all the other transformations can hold their breath for the duration of the transformation. Meaning these are going to be good if you're in an aquatic campaign. Otherwise, there are better forms you can take with animal form, to be honest. But other than the crab, we've also got the crocodile, the orca, and the seal. Overall, not bad, but could be better. However, what's really good is some of the animals you can pick for the Animal Instinct Barbarian now. I'm not going to go through all these, just the ones that I think are the best, but they are all on screen. The ones that I think are good are the ant and the seal, because those unarmed attacks have the grapple trait. The brontosaurus, because the tail has the trip trait. And the bat, crab, and scorpion, because some of those unarmed attacks have the parry trait, which can definitely help with your minus to AC from raging. But the one I think is by far the best is the spider. Its fangs have the grapple trait, which is already good, but you also get a web attack. While it doesn't do any damage, if you hit, the target takes a minus 10 foot status penalty to speed for 1 round. Should you hit twice with your webs in the same round, the creature you hit is immobilized until it escapes against your class DC. And barbarians have pretty decent class DC, to be honest. It's not going to be as good as something like a ranger, but slowing an enemy down on a barbarian is actually kind of insane. And immobilizing them is just no words. And the web has a range of 15 feet. So you can web them twice and then move up. Now they either have to attack you, which barbarians have a ton of hit points, or they have to try and escape, wasting an action. And remember, escaping has the attack trait, which means they're going to take a penalty if they try to attack during that same turn. Spider Animal Instinct Barbarians are going to be absolutely insane. And that's all the new options you have for Druids and Barbarians. Granted, most of these options are designed with Druids in mind, but there are a few feats that can be taken by both Barbarians and Druids. But the big thing for Barbarians is the new animals for the animal order, especially that spider. In my next video, I'll be covering the Claw Dancer archetype, and then you guys can expect a teamwork build using that. Definitely something to look forward to. In the meantime, though, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, do all that YouTube stuff. And of course, if you want my videos early, or you want the Google Sheets for my teamwork builds, you can check out my Patreon page. Or if you just want my videos early, you can become a member of this channel, just like these people here. If you're more interested in the new witch options, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.